All right, we're going to build a small base. Now to get started, we're going to open up the component library by pressing tab. And we're going to go into the structures tab and find the observation room right here and click on that. I'm going to place that above the grass, like so, with the left mouse button. And as you can see, the room has a few holes in them. Now those are to extend your base in any direction you want, even upwards. But I just want to close them off for this build. So let's open up the component library. You can see I can add connectors to it, I can add more rooms, but I just want to focus on these blockers. So let's start with this default blocker here. Now you can see I can snap it to these yellow areas here. And I want to close this hole in the floor, but I don't want to just attach it to the left mouse button. I want to attach and clone with the middle mouse button. What that does is it places the block here, but I'm still holding it. So I'm able to quickly go to the next one, and this one I want to attach with left mouse button. So now it's gone from my hands here. So let's do that again to close these three holes here with the window blocker. So tab again to open the component library, and we're going to select the blocker window. These areas highlight with yellow, and I'm just going to go here, middle mouse button, this one, middle mouse button again, and finally up here, left mouse button to attach. Alright, so we've closed these off. Now I want to close this hole off with just a door to make an entrance to our base. So open up the component library again, and we're going to select the door. As you can see, it snaps right into place. All I do is place it down with left mouse button. And now we're here inside our small base. We're closed off though from the outside. So let's add some way for us to exit the base. Let's start with adding a button. So open up the component library again with tab. And we're going to press behavior. And we're going to find the button and add that here. Now I need to control these as well, so I need to open the component library again and find the controller, and let's add that here. Alright, so now I need to control this button to open this door. So let's open up the sketch by pressing Q. Now I'm not going to need this ticker, and as you can see I have a few of these gray nodes here. Those are the structures, but I'm only going to focus on the door and the button. So what I want the button to do is when I press the button, it opens the door. Alright, so let's exit the sketch with Q. And let's switch the state of this base to simulate a state with R. Let's press the button. There you go. The door opens. I can now exit. But the door doesn't open. No, the door doesn't close. Now, to do something about that, I need to exit. I need to enter the sketch again with Q. Now, what I want to do here is I want to have like a node in between here that handles the closing part. So separate these out a little bit. Let's press spacebar to open the node library. I'm going to search for the timer node. Here we go. Let's add that in between. What I want the timer node to do is when I press the button, it starts counting down for, let's say, 2 seconds, and once it's done, it closes the door. So let's try that out by pressing Q, and I press the button 1, 2, there you go. Alright, so now I can press the button, exit, and it closes the door after me. But now I'm locked out. Alright, so I need a way to get in. Now I could do the same way. I could have a button that opens it. But I mean, that would let anyone in. So let's do something different here. Let's open up the component library again. I'm going to scroll down in the behavior tab for the keypad. Now the keypad I'm going to add here, left mouse button. And what I want the keypad to do, let's open up the scans again. Up here, I want to drag out the keypad, and I want a logic node to compare whatever number I enter with the keypad compare that with the password that we set, and depending whether I insert the right password or the wrong password, it opens a door or does nothing. So let's open up the node library again, and we're going to look for comparator node. Comparator node here. We're going to do number into v1, and we want the, whenever I press send, it's going to output the number into v1, and I want it to compare it at the same time. And what I want to compare it to is this v2 value. Now you see, it's not going to compare it to, it's going to compare it to none right now, but I can change that with this yellow button here. If I click on that, I can select the data type, what I want to compare it to, and in this case, it's a number. So I click apply, and let's select the integer, and we're going to type in our super secure password of 1234. Click apply, and if it passes that, we want the door to open. Let's try this out. Let's exit the scans with Q and switch the state to with R. And if I do 1, 2, 3, 4 and send, the door opens. There we go. Now, if I input the wrong password, it would be nice to know that it's wrong. So let's add another component to it. Let's open up the component library with tab. We're going to add this component, LCD. I'm going to add it on top here. It's a little bit too big, so let's scale it down to, say, 50%. What I'm doing here is I'm pressing Control, and I'm scaling it down with the mouse wheel. Let's scale the numpad to 80%. There's a gap here, so I'm going to detach this with right mouse button and attach it again with left mouse button. That looks better. Now, what I want here is, let's open the sketch again with Q. I'm going to drag the LCD node out into here, and whenever I pass, whenever the comparator passes, I want a message to be sent to the LCD, and the same thing for the failed state. So what I want to pass, currently it's going to pass none, because this is the payload of pass and payload of fail. But again, I have this data type button here, and I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select text, click apply, and tell it that this is the correct value, and this is the wrong value, or wrong password. So let's try that out. Q to close, and R to switch state. So if I do the wrong password 4, 5, 6, 7, send, it's going to say wrong. And if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, send, correct. Nice. Now, I have the same problem as with the button before. The door doesn't close. So that's an easy fix. Let's open up the sketch again. Now, whenever I pass, whenever the comparator passes and it opens the door, I also want to send another connection to start for the timer. Now, if you don't care for this line to be going through here, it looks a little bit ugly. So we can left click on the connection to create this pin, so we can clean up the sketch a little bit. Let's do it here as well. That's looking a little bit better. And let's close the sketch with Q. So now when I press the button, it's going to open and close. And let's go outside again here. Let it close. And if I do 4, 5, 6, 7, it's wrong. And if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it opens. I enter and it closes. Boof. Good job, us. Now, you're free to add to this base whatever you want. You can extend it with a connector in another room. You can even affect the windows here. Let's actually do that just as a parting gift here. Let's open up the component library, and we're gonna find the knob. It's actually handily here. So So click on that, add that to the base, and we're going to enter the sketch with Q. We're going to create some space here, hold this up, and we're going to drag out the knob, and we're going to drag out the observation room right here, and we're going to drag a connection between output analog value and let that control the glass opacity of the observation room. Now if we try that out, let's close the sketch with Q. Let's switch state with R. Now if I start operating this knob, you can see it dims the light of the window for these windows on the observation base alone, but not for these three windows. That's because they are their own separate components. Now to change that, I just drag those components out, blocker 2, blocker window 3, and connect those to the same value, output analog value, into all of them. Exit the sketch with Q again, and now it controls all the windows. So yeah, now you have a base, and I'm going to leave you with that, a small base. All right, let's build the plasma cannon. Now to start with, I want to open up the component library by pressing tab. We're in the basic components tab, and I want to use the cube, but I'm probably going to be using it more than once, so I want to add that to my quick bar. If you have it in your quick bar, you don't have to do anything, but I'm missing it, so I'm going to hover over it. I'm pressing 1, and you can see it's in our number 1 slot here. So I'm just going to close the component library with tab and press 1 to spawn it in front of me. There we are. I'm going to place it down with left mouse button, and I'm going to start by scaling it. Now to scale it, I'm holding down Control, and I'm using W while holding down Control to select width axis, and I want to scale that up to 1.5 using the scroll wheel on the mouse. So 1.5, W again for height, that's 0.75, and W again for depth to scale it to 1.5. There we go. Now I want to switch the state to sort of have it on the ground there. That's R. And here it is. And this is our base for our plasma cannon. Now let's build the control panel next by opening up the component library with tab. And we're going to use the hexagon panel. So let's click on that. It's laying down here. It's kind of bright at the moment, but I want it to stand up. So we're going to use the scroll wheel to cycle the sockets. So it's standing up. And let's place it down. Now it's not facing the right way, so I want to hold down Shift and the left mouse button to rotate it to 90 degrees so that it's facing sort of this axis here. And I want to scroll it with Control, W for diameter and W again for height. And I'm going to scale it up, scroll wheel again to 1.5. All right, this is sort of the base. Let's add the components that we want to control the plasma cannon with. So I'm thinking a lever and a knob and a button. So let's find those. Component library. It's somewhere in behavior. Let's find out. It should be down here. So that's a lever. I want a knob. That should be up here. And the button. That's way up here. All right. And then to control all of these, I want to use a controller. Here we are. These are intersecting a little bit. Let's fix that. There we go. All right, so now we have to do the plasma cannon itself, but I'm going to build that as its own separate device. So in here with nothing in front of us, let's press tab and let's find the mechanic components. Now, the servo is perfect for what we want to do. to control the direction of the plasma cannon. And down here is a single axis joint, which is perfect for handling the pits. I'll explain this as I go along. So let's start with the servo. It's facing upwards, and I don't want that, so I'm going to use the scroll wheel to cycle the rotation. There we go. So it's facing me, like that. Now it's going to rotate in any direction that I want, 360 degrees. Now on top of that, I want to add the single axis joint. So component library again, find the single axis joint, and let's attach that on top of it. Now you can see the single axis joint is going to rotate 90 degrees in this direction and 90 degrees in the other direction. So that's perfect for handling the pits up and down. So on top of this, I'm going to have the base for the cannon itself. So let's add a cube by pressing 1. Center it down there, and let's scale it down just slightly, just 1 tick, to 0.38 on all axes. Now let's make it a little bit cooler by having some decorative components on it. Let's open up the component library again. Let's see what we have here. We have a few parts. How about this one? I think this could look cool. Add it there. That's sort of like the backside of it. And then here, how about another hexagon? So in basic components, hexagon panel. Let's click here in the middle, and let's scale it up. I want to go to height, so that's S. And scale it up with the mouse wheel again, the scroll wheel. So that's looking pretty good. Let's add a component. Let's add the plasma cannon on top of it. Plasma cannon. That here, and yeah, it's looking. Let's add a little. This bit flat somehow. So let's add one component. I have one in mind. Decorative. Let's add this plate right here, and let's rotate it like that. So that's looking pretty good for me. You can do whatever you want, but I think this looks good to me. So now that we have the plasma cannon here and the base over there, I can take this entire device and I want to grab it by the servo, because that's the component that I want to attach the plasma cannon with to the base. So I'm going to grab the servo, I'm going to place it somewhere around there, and obviously it's facing the wrong direction, so I want to hold down shift while looking at the servo and rotate it. Now it's facing the same direction as the controls. Now all I have to do is hook up the skets. Now, like I said, I want the lever to control the single axis joint here, the knob to control the direction of the servo, and the button to control when to shoot the plasma cannon itself. So let's open up these skets with Q. Let's get rid of this ticker, we don't need that. And we're going to grab the lever, we're going to grab the knob, and we're going to grab the button. Now the lever is going to control the single axis joint, and now I have to do something in between here. If I do output position to target rotation like this, the lever outputs minus 100 degrees, well, minus 100% to 100%. And the single axis joint is going to understand that as minus 100 degrees and plus 100 degrees. It's not going to go all the way because it can only go to 90 and minus 90. So I can just show you real quick. If I do this, this is a little bit too much. There's no reason for me to pitch the cannon by this much. I mean, it could just be dangerous. So let's limit how much this lever can control the single axis joint by getting rid of this line by hovering over it and right-clicking. And we're going to add a logic node by pressing spacebar. This is a node library here. And we're just going to search for the percentage mapper right here. Now, what this is going to do is I want the lever to deliver the percentage, its percentage, to the percentage mapper. and I want it to control basically I'm going to map it from, let's say, well, minus 30 degrees to 30 degrees. Now, because it's delivering a minus value as well as a plus value, I want to use a negative limit. Otherwise, it's only going to recognize 0 to 100, but with this text, it's going to recognize minus 100 to plus 100. So now, obviously, nothing is going to happen if I don't tell it to map the new percentage. So every time it outputs the position, or the position of the lever changes, it's going to also map the new percentage. So we're going to take the output, put that to target rotation, and let's see what happens now. That's more like it. You can still shoot kind of close down, but that's fine, probably. Now, the next thing we want to do is the knob to control the direction. So we'll drag out the servo, and it's the same deal here. Output analog value to target rotation. The knob only delivers 0 to 100, and the servo is just going to interpret that as 0 to 100 degrees. So if I turn the knob all the way, I can only shoot left. That's not good. So let's use another percentage mapper. Let's get rid of this line and space and another percentage mapper. And then output analog value to percentage, and I'm going to map it as well. And then number to target rotation, so that's all set up. Now I just have to add, let's say, 90 degrees to minus 90 degrees. Now, because the knob is not outputting any minus value, I don't need to use the negative value. So this should pretty much just work out exactly how I want it to. There you go. I can rotate the plasma cannon 180 degrees. Now, it's facing forward, but the knob here is facing like downwards to the right. It's not nice necessarily. It's easier if I would recognize where it's aiming from just by looking at the knob. So let's switch the state here, and let's rotate with shift. Let's rotate the knob by 135 degrees. So that's now it's aiming somewhat forward, and if I turn right, it's turning right, left, left. So it's more in line with where the plasma cannon is facing. All I have to do now is hook up the button. So button, plasma cannon, this is easy. Whenever I press it, I want it to shoot. Let's see what happens. There we go. Now we can do a little target practice here. Let's add a cube with 1, and then another cube on top of it, 1, and another one. There we go. This is going to be our target. So let's see if we can aim for that. Maybe a little bit high. Yeah, I'm not really good at this. We got it. There we go. Now, obviously, you can do your own additions to it. You can add like a camera on top of it and have it zoom in and have like a screen here so that you can see exactly where you're aiming. You can have a slider maybe here that controls the speed or the power, or have like a switch to control the gravity. This is kind of fun as well. Puts gravity on the plasma cannon, so it's kind of more fun maybe to aim. But I'll leave that all up to you, and I'll leave you with this: a plasma cannon. All right, let's build that. I'm pressing close. We're built with holding the rope. Let's use a fraction of the plasma cannon. And down here is a single axis joint, which is perfect for handling with a servo rotation. Now it's gonna all components and uses what gives us the here or a even line but in here to get small side find and then enter the points record could access so plasma can that here flat somehow this like that component that I'm looking at the controls. Like I said, on knob when the lever. Now I have to do something in between here. Is 100 as 100 minus 90. It's a little bit too. We could this lever can control the single S joint by getting rid of this line by hovering over it and right clicking the node library here. Deliver the percentage. It's want it to control basically going to map to 30 degrees. Now because it's delivering a minus value as well as a plus value, I want to use a negative. With this text, it's going to recognize -1 happen if I don't tell it to map the new percentage. So every time it outputs the push changes. So we're going to take the that's two is the knob to control analog value to target rotation. The knob only delivers 0 to 100. The knob all the way. I can only shoot left. That's not good. So let's use another percentage mapper. Let's get rid of this line and space and another percentage mapper. And then output analog value to percentage, and I'm going to map it as well. And then number to target rotation, so that's all set up. Now I just have to add, let's say 90 degrees to minus 90 degrees. Now because the knob is not outputting any minus value, I don't need to use the negative value. So this should pretty much just work out exactly how I want it to. There you go. I can rotate the plasma cannon 180 degrees. Now it's facing forward, but the knob here is facing like downwards to the right. It's not nice necessarily. It's easier if I would recognize where it's aiming from just by looking at the knob. So let's all compute quick spot and that's now we go to have and meet here. So as going to consider a so here build up that road. I think there's the direction to leave roll that to gonna grab it. Well, so a little bit to you could this and right click bar map the live used by map going to the application. So we'll drag out the servo, and it's the same deal here. Here, output analog value to target rotation. The knob only delivers 0 to 100 turn, and the servo is just going to interpret that as 0 to 100 degrees. So if I turn the knob all the way, I can only shoot left. That's not good. So let's use another percentage mapper. Let's get rid of this line and space and another percentage mapper. And then output analog value to percentage, and I'm going to map it as well. And then number to target rotation, so that's all set up. Now I just have to add, let's say 90 degrees to minus 90 degrees. Now because the knob is not outputting any minus value, I don't need to use the negative value. So this should pretty much